Justin here from Crown and Key. I am very honored to be speaking with CEO and founder of Katana, Bryan Verona. And Bryan, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you again, Justin.
All right. So let's go to the very beginning, if you don't mind. Tell me the story of how Katana started, how did all, the beginning, origins of it, and then where do you end up standing for today?
Great. Well, thank you for that. Good to be here. Katana was founded out of the pandemic. Me and many other people were hesitant to fly commercially. And so then, therefore, we were looking for alternatives. We didn't want to just travel via car to places, we wanted to travel further afield. So private aviation became at least a consideration where maybe it wasn't before. In particular, I was flying from New York to Colorado to Aspen, and there was I was flying with two other people, and most planes that make that trip accommodate eight people. I was frustrated that there wasn't an easy way that I was aware of to find other people with similar flight intentions, such that we could share the plane to Aspen.
Hmm.
So, born out of that thought was this idea for creating a special purpose built way in which people could connect to share flights, buy and sell excess seats on private planes. And that was where Katana came from. So, it really is a platform for people to buy and sell excess seats on private planes. And then it's expanded beyond that as well. So, in building that platform, when I think about it, there's the supply side, which are seats, we'll
Hmm.
call them premium seats. And then there's also the individuals or network of people that want to make those seats available and purchase those seats. The reality is that, in building this network, we started with not enough people that wasn't enough supply and there wasn't enough demand. So where I've been spending my time is building up the supply and building out the demand. The supply has expanded from initially from flight interest, where people could say, I'm looking to go to Toronto, for example, from New York. Is there anyone else out there in the world? And from there, we expanded to individuals who were saying, I chartered a plane from New York to Toronto and I have excess seats that I could list those seats as part of the supply. From there, we expanded to include our first partner was XO, which is owned by Vista. And they operated scheduled service, Part 135, they're called, flights between New York and South Florida. So we added their supply, and we've added a bunch of other carriers, including Aero and Bark Air and a few others. And then from there, we expanded to include empty legs, which are flights that are typically repositioning. And in addition to that, we also have business and first class seats. So the idea was come to Katana, where you can see the most diverse inventory of premium aviation options to get to your destination. So that was the way in which we built this platform, is we really built up supply. Then, on the demand side, we've been focused on customer acquisition to build a network effect, such that each subsequent person that comes to the network, it's more valuable for everyone else. The hope is ultimately that people come to Katana first when they're looking for premium flight options. So before you book your charter plane, you might want to see if there's a couple excess seats on someone else's plane, or maybe there's even an empty leg that is available. And then the whole overarching concept is to improve capacity utilization for premium aviation such that more people can do it by lowering the per unit cost. And that's the vibe, is this idea of
Right.
sharing an underutilized asset, be it a private plane or whatnot, or an empty leg where it's just a plane repositioning without passengers. And that way, we can lower the per seat cost so that more people can fly this highly convenient way.
Yeah.
And that's
And what's interesting about what you do, and why I reached out to you, I was like, I want to highlight you in this podcast, is because you saw a need that needed to be filled, and you're working very diligently to fill that need. Also, a lot of people like myself, I think that flying private is completely unattainable. like, oh, I got to be a billionaire and have, and like, it's just, that's not the world I live in, right? So, of course, there are people that afford those jets, and those are great. I would love to have that someday. That'd be awesome. But I think what you're bringing is that dream to anybody who could
Yeah.
really want it, right?
No, absolutely. The idea is more affordable luxury. It's making the unobtainable obtainable. Whereas a flight to, if you were to charter a plane to Aspen, for example, from New York, it could be $40,000 for 8 seats. However, if it's only two of you, you could buy 2 seats, let's say for $10,000, go when you want, landing where you want, and, enjoying all the benefits of private aviation. So it is this idea of making luxury a bit more affordable and eliminating waste ultimately. There's tons of waste. There's tons of seats that go underutilized. And there's lots of planes that are repositioning to accommodate a subsequent charter, known as empty legs, that are flying empty, which is absurd as far as
I have a question for you.
yeah, of course.
Do you find it difficult to convince somebody who owns a private jet to let other people use it?
I call it I'll answer that this way. I call it the 1 to 2%, 122. And what I mean by that is the very wealthy probably don't care, right? And don't want the inconvenience of sharing a plane with someone, whether they know them or not. So I consider that the 1%. We're focused on the next layer of people that do care. And not only, would they want to save money, there's amazing opportunities to network, to meet people. We did a deal with a Discovery property in Baker's Bay, for example, where we created a group. And what Baker's Bay is it's a beautiful place in the Bahamas where people are typically third home. It's typically their third home. It's not a weekend home. It's more of a vacation home that they own. And what's been amazing about it is their goals of Discovery of Baker's Bay is they want their members on property. So we're lowering the price point to get on property, even though many of their clients are price insensitive. But secondarily, you're creating a community. You're creating opportunities for members of that residential resort to connect with each other. You're in New York and Baker's Bay, awesome. We should know each other. Let's play golf when we're there, or let's coordinate our travel so
Mm,
we leave at the same time, because we're good, we're compatible schedule or travel wise. So it creates opportunities to meet people that you may not have otherwise connected with. So it's both of those. And I acknowledge there are people that do not want the hassle or the perceived hassle of having a stranger on their plane because A, they don't care about the money, or B, they just don't want it.
yeah,
And that's okay.
yeah.
It's all good. But that being said, I always talk about I was going to Newark, which has been a real problem for New York area travelers. And I was traveling to Colorado and my flight was delayed 2 hours. I'm on the way to the airport. The flight was delayed another 2 hours. And that's, meanwhile, the average delay times at Newark are insane. Like, I think they're averaging around 100, the average delay is 100 minutes, which is absolutely
My
insane.
goodness.
Anyway, when your flight gets delayed twice, it's over. It's game over. I was able to find an empty leg flight. And the flight, it was six of us traveling. The flight was $18,000. It was an amazing deal. It's a lot of money, I acknowledge, but we had to get there. We were paying for hotels. Like there was a lot of other costs that were, going to be evaporated. And we had room for four additional people. Sadly, I couldn't find those four people. I guarantee at Newark Airport that day, there was at minimum four people that
Right,
would have bought a seat for $3,000 a seat. Minimum.
right. To get where they're going, like right now. Yeah.
Yes. And the sad part is, it's about exposure. It's about people knowing where to look. Again, our goal is to, obviously create awareness for Katana because ultimately you may find what you're looking for,
Hmm.
particularly in a pinch. And the way our system works is we push notifications out. If you're interested in a route, let's say Toronto to Miami, and I set parameters as my favorite airports as Toronto, Miami, anytime there are seats available or whole charters, I will get a push notification. Or alternatively, if I go to the Katana site, I can search for that and see if what I want is there. So again, it's still early days. We don't, we're not at the point where if you list seats, you'll be guaranteed to sell them. That is my goal, is that people will safely charter planes knowing that they can find the audience of people that will purchase seats.
Very, very cool.
And so that's sort of the vibe and the goal.
Got it. Got it. So, how would you describe the type of people who most resonate with Katana? Like, if you're kind of looking at your client base, who describe that?
Yeah, they're uh, one. I'll go back to the 122, but the people that are business class flyers, they will pay for a business class seat. Good value in private aviation per seat, in my opinion, is something on the order to 2 to 3 times the cost of a business class seat, of a similar business class seat. So you're avoiding, again, all the benefits. And then on the other side is someone who would charter a plane, but would rather it be less expensive. It's
Mhm.
sort of, that is a sweet spot. I believe that, the business class traveler is the perfect traveler for
Excellent.
they will pay up for the convenience, particularly for personal travel, unless they can get a client to pay for it.
Hmm.
Um, Given the fact that, how many vacations do people take in any given year
Hmm.
domestically? Obviously, international flights are a different value proposition. But, you know, again, 3 to 5. I mean, buying a seat, saving 16 hours, affording you the ability to ski that extra day, get the
Hmm.
extra dinner
Right.
in your luxury resort. Those are attractive value propositions, and that's what I believe, is a sweet spot for our customer.
Right. So, I have a quick um, service question for you. So, do you fly, pardon my ignorance on this, do you only fly domestically or do you fly international? How does that work?
The platform supports everything. I would say the core of our members, less than 5% are international. We just haven't focused on that growth category yet. But we have inventory of flights international, and empty legs international. But most of the action is domestic, which is driven in a large part by where our members are from. With particular concentrations in the Northeast, South Florida, Colorado, California, and Texas.
Okay. So, within the kind of the shared private airline space, private jet space, what would you say sets you the most apart from everyone else?
I mean, there's no platform that I'm aware of that brings together this diversity of premium inventory in one place. So if you're looking for seats, if you're looking for empty legs, if you're looking for business or first class seats, if you're looking for Part 135, there's no one platform that brings it all together. Well, in my opinion, people should come to Katana first before they go out and book whatever it is they're going to book.
Okay.
So there's really, Expedia, none of the sites do it. They're just
Yeah.
business and first class seats.
Yeah.
They don't have any of the other inventory. There's really nothing that comes close currently.
Interesting. So, what within since COVID and kind of your inception of Katana and the shared private jets, shared spacing, and all that you offer as a company, where do you see it going? Where do you see the industry headed?
I see continued growth. I mean, if you look at the underlying data on passenger miles in private aviation, you're seeing pretty steady growth. There was certainly a surge with the pandemic,
Hmm.
but it really, so the growth has lessened, but there continues to be growth of private aviation. The reality though is expensive. It is require a lot of resources to fly privately. A lot of those, not just the cost of the plane and depreciation, but the variable costs of aviation fuel. So, but ultimately, I see more, larger fleets, more private planes are going to create opportunities for more opportunities for chartering and hopefully at lower rates. My objective is lowering the per unit cost, which would, expand the market for people that can fly privately
Hmm.
ultimately. So, I see, increasing affluence throughout the world, particularly at the top end. Obviously there's, widely reported, that income distribution is worsening, but, clearly at the top end with asset owners, it hasn't had much of an impact,
Okay.
or a
So
significant impact.
what's getting the most of your attention right now? Is it like, are the tariffs affecting you? Sales affecting you? Like what's kind of got your eye?
On the negative side, not a lot on the negative side, to be honest with you. The negative stories about commercial experience,
Hmm.
are drawing people to our product. So you're seeing air traffic controller hiring has been poor. And so therefore you're seeing problems and significant delays with commercial. Ultimately, those types of negative stories and experiences, positively affect the demand for private aviation options. So I look at what's happening in my backyard at Newark. You effectively had the Department of Transportation have to step in. They moved the control of that to a different airport, and they've had to throttle back supply, the number of flights coming and going. But at the end of the day, you look at commercial operations versus private aviation, and it's 2%, 4%, from the New York area are private aviation departures, and on a per seat basis, it's even less. So it's very, there's a lot of room to grow, I believe, in private aviation, as inconvenience goes up, as price of commercial tickets goes up. So again, not much on the negative side, that I see. And I
The
ultimately,
negative does impact, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's
no,
almost the adverse
we're
effects. You're like, hey,
inversely
fine with me.
correlated. Yeah, we're inversely correlated. I mean, there's a ton of innovations that, for example, artificial intelligence. We actually added artificial intelligence to our site where you can interact with our artificial intelligence agent. We call it the Katana artificial intelligence assistant, Kaya for short. Um, so we're trying to implement advanced solutions into finding whatever it is that you need, whether you need a plane, whether you need something to do at your destination, whether you want to figure out which airport to leave from, whether you want to figure out how far it is from where you are to a particular private airport. We're trying to make everything seamless and easy to access, and I think some of the technology advances have been very exciting for private aviation and, Katana in particular.
Yeah, you kind of beat me to it. I was going to ask you about AI, if you're integrating that within your platform, or how you're using that for customer,
Yeah,
using it. Are you using it anything outside of like, we'll call it more of the on the help side? Are you using it like for client
yeah. I
acquisition
mean,
or anything?
you could search for, right now you can either enter the parameters or you could just do it in our AI assistant, Kaya, and it will find you the flights that meet your needs or the seats that meet your needs. In
Very cool.
addition, you can ask it all different types of questions, which we previously had no way to service. You'd have to leave our site and go to
Yeah.
ChatGPT or
Yeah.
similar Google. Now you can ask, well, what's a citation latitude plane? How many does it accommodate typically? What's its fuel efficiency? Et cetera, et cetera. So all of that now is self-contained on our site with our very personable assistant named Kaya.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's fun to, you know, again, we want to be, all things to people so they come to the site, use it, and have a positive experience. So
Yeah.
I think that was a natural progression in our evolution.
So, what if you were to kind of pause today and ask yourself this question? What kind of like stage of growth do you think Katana is in right now? Are you in a building stage, you scaling stage, refining? Where do you think you're landed?
My focus is on customer acquisition because every person that I bring is more valuable, makes the whole network more valuable. So I'm laser focused. I like the product. The user experience could always be a bit better. I'm constantly adding features and trying to improve the user experience, and that is ongoing on our product
Yeah.
roadmap. But where we're spending our resources, not just our time and money, is on customer acquisition. We want you to feel confident that that people know about us, and B, that you can find what you're looking for,
Yeah.
which largely is a product of other members contributing their seats and making their
Right.
seats available.
So what are you doing in that kind of sphere? You doing advertising? You kind of like social media, a lot of social media presence. What are you doing?
Yeah, or for us, we brought on PR, so we've trying to get our name out there. Broadly speaking, we do a lot of SEO, search engine optimization. We find that when people are looking for seats and flights, they're our customer basically, so we can find them easily. And social media to a lesser extent. We've used it to some success, but
Yeah.
I would say third on
Okay.
our list.
Cool. So what's been the last year? What's been the most exciting win that you've had? Wins that you've had over the last year?
I One of my favorite partners is Bark Air, and I really, basically they run a dog-centric airline. The company came out of the Bark Box, which was a box of toys for your dogs, and they're just dogs. They don't even bother with cats or llamas or peacocks or whatever other pets people have carried on planes. And they've created this dog-centric. They have a bunch of routes, and we feature them on our page. I believe that a chunk of private aviation, I'm hesitant to give a percentage, is because people have beloved dogs.
Really?
Yes, people,
Wow.
me included, want my dog with me wherever I go. We spend a lot of time down in South Florida. South Florida is actually very well serviced. XO, JSX, and a few other, and now Bark Air service New York to South Florida. And, it's a bit less cumbersome than traveling with a pet, a large pet, than it is on commercial airlines who have made it increasingly difficult to travel with your beloved pet.
Yeah.
So we brought Bark Air, which was new at the time, onto our platform. We introduced them to our members, and I welcome I welcome anyone to our platform. But I think they have a pretty cool product, just
Really?
given how it's
I
just
never would have guessed that.
yeah,
Never
it's
would have guessed.
basically for your dog, and you can come with them if you want.
Very cool. I
Yeah.
love my dog. I don't think I'd want to travel with it that much,
Yeah, well,
but some people
yeah,
are different.
people
So,
well, again, it's one of those things like as a dog owner, I've got two Bernedoodles. When I'm going to some place for an extended period of time,
mhm.
like
Yeah,
let's
I
say
guess that
South
makes
Florida
sense. Yeah.
for the winter, like you want your dog with you. So, you don't have a lot of options absent, these airlines or some of the Part 135 guys who are a bit more lenient on it. And Bark Air is, there's other carriers as well that we've partnered with. There's two other have entered the space since one before them and one since them, where you can travel to London and Paris. And, they're really for people that spend significant chunks of time in
Yeah.
those jurisdictions.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think they're doing cool stuff, and the more the merrier. The more operators, the better for everyone, and particularly for shared product.
So, what's kind of switching gears just a bit? What is a kind of a marketing challenge or area you'd like to dial in better over the next like 6, 12 months?
Again, back to the customer acquisition.
Yeah. Just pure there.
My job is CEO and founder is to find the most productive ways to spend money. So I'm constantly looking for lower customer acquisition to lower my customer acquisition costs. Um, that's like I said, that's where I'm laser focused, and specific, execution is focusing on how to efficiently spend my marketing
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah. I've yet to meet a business owner who has like, maybe you've met these people, I don't know, but unlimited funds and do whatever they want whenever they want. I mean, there might be those people out there, but I've yet to meet
Yeah.
one of them that
You
are
know,
just
it's
not efficient with their spending.
well, yeah, no, look, there is, I'll say the following. I'm funding the business. I haven't raised outside capital yet. And so I can't throw too much stuff up against the wall and see what sticks, but you do need to do trial and error. I mean, you don't know until you know. And, these tests, can last a long time when executed properly. It's not just A/B testing on the look and feel and the copy and of an ad. It's a lot more than that. Spending time and bringing on experts is critical. And again, if I raise money, most of it would be on customer acquisition. Some improvements of the product, but and definitely could grow much faster. Um, you know, versus trying to grow profitably. Um, which is, when I think of, internet 1.0 and 2.0, it was not focused on which is not really me. It's not, not focusing on profitability,
Hmm.
focusing on creating customer scale and a moat between what you've created and what anyone else is able to create. So anyway, I ought to do that, but I haven't done it.
Yeah. So that kind of begs me to the next question: is what's the next evolution of Katana? Like, where do you see? What does that look like for you?
I mean, I think it's staying the course. And if I was to things that I'm, giving consideration to, I've been in discussions with with large charter brokers, for example. The idea there is that they have a larger volume of charters and customers who have excess seats. So tapping into that supply with some of the larger guys could be useful, valuable for everyone. Again, I just want as much supply on the platform as possible. So strategies and demand, of course, but strategies for bringing that supply, particularly the value added supply of member seats, are something that I'm having conversations about.
Very cool. Well, it's exciting to see where you're going to take this thing. I'm really excited to see that. So I have a couple more questions for you. If you could kind of like wave a magic wand and fix the one thing in your business right now that's like, man, I just want to just wave a wand and have that go away or whatever, what would that be?
I feel like I've talked about customer acquisition too much. I'll go a different direction. I think the onboarding could be a bit better. This is
Hmm.
top of mind today.
All right.
I was on a AI app today, and I really liked their onboarding. It was very intuitive. You kind of walked you through exactly why you're there and how you're going to use it. And I feel like I could do a bit of a better job, onboarding people and priming them to know how to use the product. So, again, that could be solved. It's just,
Yeah.
and will be solved, and
Yeah.
it's top of my mind. The only reason I mention it, but there are really, tried and true ways of onboarding customers and members and getting them
Yeah, the
excited.
client acquisition is kind of like just one half of the puzzle. It's then once you get somebody into your sales funnel, whether if it's booking a shared private jet or buying something on an online store, like the process
Uh,
of going through that is where, at least in my experience, I've seen that's where there's a steep drop off
yeah.
because you're so focused on just trying to get somebody in the door that you don't realize that, oh, I actually need to kind of guide them through the process to make sure it's a really good experience. Glad that you're recognizing that.
Yeah, no, it's obvious. But to your point, I don't just want an email and a name and a phone number. I actually want them to be a vibrant part of this community. I want them to sell excess seats, charter planes, buy seats, and tell their friends about it.
Do you make it a point to solicit feedback after somebody work? I mean, what's your process with that, or do you have something like that in place?
We don't, when someone flies, we thank them and whatever and say I'm available. We don't have, we haven't initiated a organized feedback loop,
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
or
All right.
automated feedback.
Oh, very
Good
cool.
thought though.
So I have a question for you. Like, this is kind of like looking back. So if you were to look back, go back to your younger self, even maybe even before Katana started. You know, you're a business guy. You've been in, you've mentioned to me privately that you've been in some different businesses. You don't need to necessarily elaborate that if you don't want to. But what I would like to get from you, or just some insight from you, is what would you tell your younger self, knowing what you know now?
Funny. My younger self before this business started isn't that much younger than I am now. But honestly, I I do think that, and I feel like I would tell myself to have more confidence in the idea up front and raise a little bit of money to move faster. And, I think that's, I think, you know, I, that early, excitement and, and when it's all hope is in a company's life an important time. I'm not past that stage yet, but
Right.
I'm in the more realistic aspect of what the business can be. But I'm not really comfortable taking money from people without feeling really, really certain there's good product market fit. That, I'm not telling this to my younger self or my younger self telling this to my older self. It's just not my comfort level
Yeah.
asking people for money on a question
Hmm.
that needs to be answered, which is the genesis of any business, right? Is if I make this product or service available, will people use, or will I figure out a way in which to adapt it to what the actual use case is?
Mm.
Um, and maybe, if I was consulting, a younger, less wizened self, I probably would tell myself to raise the capital and figure it out and do it
Mm.
quickly.
Mm.
Um, anyway,
Your GTM get to, your go to market strategy quicker. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Okay.
it's quicker, bigger, more splashy rather than building. I'm thinking like Minecraft, like building blocks. We're not talking shoots and ladders. We're talking like building step by step by step by step,
Right. Right.
you know?
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. I really do appreciate that. I'm just always curious. I always think about that. Like, what would I tell myself too earlier? You know, self doubt is one of those things too that kind of plays into that. Like, is this a really good idea? Should I do this? Am I capable of doing this? But I think what sets you apart, Bryan, is that you're like, I have an idea, and maybe it's been an up and down, sideways, backwards journey for you. Like entrepreneurship is, it's never a straight line. It's like
Nobody
everywhere,
lives,
all over the
that's said
place, and
by
there's
Hillary.
moments putting your head against the wall.
Yeah, no, look, the other thing is, I started it with someone who wasn't perfectly aligned in terms of commitment to the business. And that can present some challenges as well. Because I do think you need a thought partner to challenge you to be accountable. And in the early part, I didn't really have that. Or I would say the middle third. And, I think having someone for that is actually important to the success of a business.
Mentorship, thought leadership. Yeah, it's very important. So, kind of giving you the spotlight here, is there anything particular you'd like to, let listeners or viewers of this know? Like, is there a particular, event you're going to be at, or you got something you like to share or promote? I'm happy to give you the floor.
No, I appreciate it. Look, I'd love you to check out Katana, www.flykatana.com. I think of myself as a flexible thinker and am open to any and all input. So, please, if there's anything that I or we can do to make your experience better, more productive, I am completely open and available to anyone and everyone.
Awesome.
And I hope you like the product. And again, it's a journey. It's not fixed in space and time like one's travel plans, but it can always be better. I think, with the advent of, of artificial intelligence, information is becoming easily and more obtainable. And I think that will benefit private aviation. I think, hopefully we're in the right place to benefit from that, broader innovation, but ultimately, we're in the business of connecting people to make their travel experience better, in
Awesome.
some way, shape, or form. We focus for now on, on flights, but I think it applies to a lot of other areas in premium travel as well. So we're
Awesome.
excited about the prospects. We're excited, to welcome you to our platform, and I appreciate your time, Justin. This has been
Yeah, you bet. Well,
a good
thanks, Brian.
conversation.
I mean, your insight has been awesome, and I know people are going to take away a few nuggets here and there because, you've been down the road, and some people haven't quite been there yet. And I really appreciate your time today. So thank you so much, Brian. So if you want to check out, if you're hearing this, and Brian mentioned it, but I'll mention it again. It's flykatana.com, and that's KATAN.com if you'd like to check out his platform. And I'll link it around this video and everything. So I'll do my best to let people shoot people your way. But check him out. He's got a great service that he's providing. And again, Brian, thank you so much for your time today, and hope you have a good one.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Justin.
All right, man. Thanks. All right. Cool.